This meeting is being recorded.
Oh my gosh. That was loud. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Tony Thompson with NAMB. It's currently 2 o'clock Eastern time on the East Coast. Welcome to today's call. We got an exciting webinar talking about helping lenders understand how to grow multicultural originations. We're going to give it just a second here and we will get started, but just wanted to make sure we came on to say hello. Welcome to today's call. Just a simple check. If you can see and hear me, if you can just simply respond, raise your hands, or send a message back. Tony, I got you in the chat function. That would be great. Anyone see or hear?
Got a couple hands up.
Okay, a couple hands up. Okay,
yep.
Great. Okay. Give it just one more minute and we'll go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Okay, it's 2:02 Eastern time on the East Coast. For those who I have not had an opportunity to meet, my name is Tony Thompson. I'm the founder and CEO of NAMBA. Really excited about today's webinar. First of all, I was about to say Hump Day Wednesday, but it is not Hump Day Wednesday. It is Terrific Tuesday. So hope you're having a great, terrific Tuesday. On behalf of NAMBA, I want to thank you for joining us today. We've got some great content, some great information if you're an originator or a lender to help you understand how to really, at the end of the day, tap into a growing multicultural marketplace. I do a lot of speaking every week. And one of the things I always throw out to the audiences that I'm speaking is over the next 5 years, there's a $2.9 trillion opportunity in the multicultural originations market. Let me say that again. Over the next 5 years, there's a $2.9 trillion market opportunity for women, millennials, communities of color, as well as the LGBTQ. And if you're an originator or if you're a lender, this is a market that you simply cannot ignore because at the end of the day, this is where a lot of growth is going to come in every MSA and every zip code across the country. And so today's presentation is to really help understand how to grow multicultural origination for your business or for your company as an organization. Before we get into the webinar, a couple of housekeeping announcements. One, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll get a demo after that within 24 hours. Shout out to everyone that's joining us on Facebook Live today. We're excited to have you. And then secondly, we want to make sure that we share some exciting news with you with our upcoming NAMBA Connect conference. Woo! Join me and 1,000 other attendees at the largest real estate and mortgage diversity event in the industry. It's called NAMBA Connect. And now more than ever, NAMBA Connect is right on time in terms of everything that's happening in the marketplace. It is going to be the place that you can come, connect, grow, listen to key speakers. We got a lot of great stakeholders, a lot of different regulators coming to the conference, hear from subject matter experts. And then most importantly, if you're an originator, learn best practices to elevate your business going into 2023. And if you're a lender, learn about some great trends and benchmarkings that you can take back to your organization to position your company for success in 2023 and beyond. So September the 15th through the 17th, I would be honored to have you to join me and our entire NAMBA family at NAMBA Connect 2022. It's on the home of Walt Disney at the beautiful JW. So to learn more about the conference and to see the speaking lineup and the agenda, just go to namba.org and you'll see more about the conference. So having said that, we will be taking questions as we go through today's webinar. And then at the end, we'll save some time for additional questions as well. Please join me in welcoming Bernard Nuselli, who's the COO of iEmergent. He's going to be our presenter today, sharing some information around how your organization can grow multicultural market share, or if you're an originator, things that you need to start thinking about as it relates to how to grow and where to focus your business as you look into 2023. Right before we came on to today's webinar, Bernard and I was just quickly talking behind the scenes, and we could not believe, first of all, that next week is the end of the month. So it is hard to believe that we're 7 months into the year, heading into the 8th month. Now more than ever, you've got to make sure that you are focusing on taking time out to plan for 2023 and beyond, because the marketplace is going to be very different than what it was the first half of this year. And so having the right data, having the right insights, and having the right resources to help you grow your business as an originator or a lender is now paramount than ever. That's what today's webinar is about. So without further ado, I would love to just turn it over and introduce Bernard Nuselli, COO for iEmergent.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to speak today. I am going to share my screen. Thank you. And here we go. All right. So you should, in front of you, see a map of Washington, D.C. So just before I start, we can do an analysis, or we can look at any market in the U.S. I picked DC today just because it's a very interesting market, a lot of diverse market and multicultural opportunity here. So very interesting to look at. And I'll say that whether you're a senior leader in the organization or whether you're a loan officer, there is something for all of you in the presentation that you're about to see. So having said that, I will say that right now we are looking at the Washington, D.C. market by county for 2022 purchase dollars, okay? So the blue counties represent less opportunity. The red counties represent more opportunity. And again, what I mean by that is if I were to click on Montgomery County, I could say that, look, we're predicting, or we're forecasting Montgomery County to be an $8.6 billion market in 2022. Granted, half the year is already gone, but the idea is still the same. We're still in a forecast the time frame, and usually in about a month or so we shift to 2023 entirely. But there's still a good amount of opportunity to be had right now this year. Okay. So the point is that once you look at your market and you identify where the opportunity is, where the mortgage dollars are, then generally you want to say, all right, well, let me get a little bit more granular, because these are really giant counties. And so what we do is we get rid of the county level view, and instead we're still looking at Washington, D.C., but now we're looking at it by census tract, which is just a smaller unit of geography, right? But it's the same concept. Blue census tracts, less opportunity. Red census tracts, more opportunity. So you can see, a couple red census tracts right here. This looks like Loudoun County, Virginia. Obviously, that's been a high growth area for many years now, and it continues to be so. But instead of looking at, an $8 billion county like Montgomery County was, if I click on this census tract, this geography, then we can see, look, just in this area, it's going to be a $631 million area for purchase. Okay, so as a lender, if I'm looking at this holistically as a senior leader first, then I'm saying, look, these are the areas where the opportunities are in the market, And then I'm going to add my branches. So here's an example. Here's dummy data of some bank branches or mortgage locations within the DC area. Okay. And then the next thing I would want to do is to show if I'm a lender, if I would want to show where I have originated loans in the market, represented by these blue circles. So if you imagine a company, whether it's a bank or an independent mortgage company or a credit union, looking at its branch locations and then where it's originated loans, what you can quickly see visually is where there are potential gaps in coverage. Okay, so what do I mean by that? If I were to zoom in and focus on this branch, for example, I would sit down and talk to the branch manager or a loan officer located here and say, look, we're originating loans kind of all over inside the market, right? And that's great. Let's keep doing that. But let's also focus our attention onto the areas with the most opportunity. So for example, in this census tract, where we're saying, there should be about $203 million of opportunity, we haven't originated a single loan in this area, right? And so we could get more bang for the buck by saying, hey, as branch managers or as loan officers, let's focus on this area right here, which is really in our backyard relative to this branch. That's not even taking into account all the opportunity that's a little bit to the west, where we start seeing some red census tracts over here. Okay. So from here, what can we do? So I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to take off the loans that we've originated and just leave the branches on for right now. And the idea or the power, the value of whether it's this software or you're getting your information from somewhere else, the power is to be able to say, all right, this forecast captures all purchase opportunity. But what if I wanted to segment the market by race or by ethnicity? How would the opportunity look? And so if I said, all right, instead, I want to see where the African-American opportunity is in DC, it would look like this. And I'm going to zoom out even more. So really, when we're talking about DC, a lot of opportunity for African-American borrowers happens to be, southeast and then a little bit southwest over here. But this opportunity looks different if you're said, all right, well, what about for Hispanic borrowers? Where are the Hispanic borrowers in DC? Or where's the opportunity? And it looks like this, which also looks different than the Asian borrower opportunity, which is very specific and very concentrated right over here and right over here. So again, it's the same market, but depending on the specific segment that you're trying to reach, you better make sure that your lending strategy corresponds. Okay. So we've looked at the same market by race and by ethnicity. We can also look at the same market by loan type. So if I said, hey, where is the FHA opportunity in DC? That's what this would look like. Here is the FHA opportunity in DC. So again, relative to my branches, I want to say, hey, if FHA is a part of our strategic lending, then I want to make sure to say, hey, we have these branches right over here. They're right next to a lot of this opportunity. Let's make sure we're covering these areas. So looking at the market by race and ethnicity, by loan type, and then finally by low to moderate income borrower segments. So here is the LMI, or again, low to moderate income census tracts in purple. Okay, so I'm looking at the whole market, but now I've identified the LMI eligible census tracts in purple, and I can actually isolate them. So that means I'm going to remove all the other layers or hide all the other layers and just have those LMI census tracts visible. And again, if I bring in my originations on top, I can say, look, there's a lot of opportunity, especially in close proximity to this cluster of branches where we're just not doing business. And so therefore we're leaving money on the table. But even better than actually knowing where the low to moderate income census tracts are, it's being able to quantify them. So now what I've done is I've said, all right, I'm leaving the LMI census tracts on the map, but now I can clearly see where the most opportunity is. And so in fact, I would zoom back in to this branch, for example, and I would say, look, this branch is located in an area where if you were to add up all the opportunity from these census tracts, from this geography, and from right here, we're in good shape. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And if I'm still zoomed in and now looking at where I've originated loans, I would say, look, just to the south of this branch, we've forecasted 335 purchase loans, and we've originated 1 year to date. So again, we're not capturing all this opportunity. So you may stop and say, all right, well, Bernard, thanks for letting me know where the opportunity is. This is a great map, but what's the next step? How can I actually make this information actionable? What can we do with this information? And so the next step is, especially now that I'm thinking, hey, if you're a loan officer, for example, looking at this presentation, the way to take advantage of the information or actually transform it from information into action is by saying, all right, well, one step is to add the listings on top of the map. And so every diamond that you see represents a live MLS listing. So I could click on one of these and I could say, look, this is 17077 Silver Arrow Drive in Dumfries, Virginia. And here's the list price. And by the way, here's the listing agent name and contact information. And you can see that actually this specific property has been on the market for the past 9 days. Okay. So right now, I've given a loan officer a place to start, right? There's a name and contact information. So what else can we do with this information? Well, we can say, look, instead of showing me all of the listings in the DC area, why don't we just focus on the listings in the low to moderate income census tracts? And that's what this looks like. So here I've isolated just those listings that fall within those LMI census tracts, but you can still see them on the map. And so now, instead of clicking on each single property one by one and looking at who their agent is, I can go to kind of this spreadsheet view of the listings and say, all right, here is going to be the full list. Here's the full list. So there are 3,684 properties currently on the market that fall within low to moderate income census tracts. And so here I can start scrolling and I can see, all right, these are the addresses of all those properties. And then I keep scrolling to the right and I can get to, here are the list prices, right? And then if I scroll all the way to the right, I can get, these are the listing agent names and then their contact information. But not only that, if I go to this by agent tab, what happens is that the platform returns a top listing agent list so that now you know whether these realtors are doing this as a side hustle or if they are really active in the community or communities you are trying to reach. So for example, if I go all the way back and I say, look, Jonathan Minerick is listed #1 overall. And here is Jonathan's contact information. But if I scroll a little bit to the right, I can see, all right, well, Jonathan's #1 because Jonathan currently has 175 active listings. Okay. And in the past 12 months, Jonathan has had over 1,200 listings, and he's sold over 831 properties. But here's the best part, is if I scroll just a little bit more to the right, then I can actually see the listings within just the LMI census tracts. So even though overall, Jonathan has a lot of active listings, he only has one in the LMI census tracts. And so therefore, if I'm a lender trying to get more LMI business, then perhaps Jonathan isn't an agent that I necessarily need to know. And instead, if I filter or sort this list by the agents with the most active listings in LMI, then I'm being very targeted and very intentional about the specific agents that are going to help me, whether I'm a senior leader, expand my business, or whether I'm a loan officer, again, being able to grow my business individually. So I can see that Sylvia Cowles is actually the listing agent with the most listings in LMI census tracts. And even though Sylvia didn't necessarily show up, in the top 3, the top 5 listing agents, for my purpose as a lender trying to get LMI business, Sylvia is the person I need to know. All right, so from here, and you could say, all right, well, that's all well and good, but this is potentially, these are listing agents. I want to know the buying agents. So we have information for that too. So here I'm just going back to the entire pool of active listings. And now all I can do is delete a couple filters to say, instead of looking at the LMI filter, or actually the active listings, I'm going to look at sold listings. Okay, and hit apply. And now what I'm doing is I'm going back 12 months. So this is always a rolling average or a rolling look at the past 12 months activity to see, okay, if I'm interested in buying agents or buy side agents, then this is what I can do. I can look here, and then when we get to the agent information, especially the buy side information right here, it'll be listed there. So usually I go to the page 2 or page 3, and eventually, if that information is contained, or if the buyer agent is contained, then it'll start showing up in these areas over here. So that's just it. And the way to really, the best way to show this is to export this report to Excel, and then you can manipulate or show exactly where the buyer agents are and for which areas. All right. So from here, a couple other things that we can do, because the whole point about this tool is to help you grow, again, whether you're a senior leader, whether you're a loan officer, but to help you grow in very intentional ways. And so I'm going to take off the listings for a second. I'm going to take off the LMI for a second, and I'm going to zoom back out. And I'm going to say, all right, let's go back to the African American forecast. So as a reminder, this is our view of the market and where we see there being opportunity for African American borrowers in DC. Okay, so you can see this corridor over here. And if I zoom in, we're going to look at a specific area. So I'm going to say, look, this area right over here is a separate submarket, okay, or what we call a mortgage opportunity zone. Same thing as a submarket. So just these areas, these little census tracts over here. So then instead of looking at all of DC, what I need to focus on is just this area. And so now, instead of saying, all right, well, who are all the listing agents in all of DC? I want to know who are the listing agents just here. And so it's the same concept where I say, all right, I just want to see the listings in this submarket. And then from here, being able to say, all right, now I want to get more granular and find out who the agents are in this submarket. But it's the same idea where we say, hey, you know, there are 315 current listings. So now, hopefully, with a smaller population, we'll be able to get to the buyer agent. I do want to make sure folks are aware of that. So there are 315 active listings in that submarket, and in the past 12 months there were 2,400 sold properties. So now I'm going to go to view a larger number of items per page, and then we'll be able to see certain properties that have the buy side listings. Once this returns, and we'll wait for a sec. So while this is thinking, the whole idea is again to be very precise and very intentional about where you want to invest your time, energy, and resources, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck. All right, so let me go back to, yeah, so here are the buyer side or the buy side agents that you can see with the names and contact information. So they're once they're captured, they're listed. All right. Now, if you're let's say you're a recruiter looking at this information, and you say, well, that's all well and good. I get it. There's listing agent information. There's realtor information. That's great. But what I want to do is find out who the loan officers are who are doing business in, whether it's in DC or specifically in this area, in this submarket. And so there are a couple things we can do. We can say, look, I'm going to click on one of these census tracts right over here, and say here, yep, there's the info, and it's coming. Close out of that. There we go. So I clicked on this census tract, and I can say, look, let me click on this report, which is view the top loan officers in here. So this opens a separate tab, a new report, and I am going to look at the information starting year to date, so since January 1st of this year. And instead of looking at just that one census tract, what I'm going to do is look at the submarket specifically. Okay, so I had called it DC Washington Mods Test, and we're going to refresh the information. And now what we're going to see is since January 1st, if I scroll down a little bit, Tom Gaffney is the #1 loan officer in that geography. Okay, so Tom works for First Heritage Mortgage, and he's originated $47 million or 64 loans overall. Okay, so think of in all of DC or DC, Maryland, Virginia, but specifically in that small market, in that small geography, he's originated 24 loans, right? It's for 17 million. So if you said, look, if we're serious about being in this area, then potentially we need to think about recruiting Tom Gaffney. So a couple things to do. One is we can click on his name, and we can see, if we hit refresh, this is, again, those are the 24 loans in just the submarket. So if you said, all right, well, I want to have a conversation with Tom, then I can click on the contact information here. And this is the address of the Tom's branch. But I can then click on this NMLS icon, which takes me directly to the NMLS page. And all I have to do is fill out the CAPTCHA. And now I get to Tom's page, which has, you know, his phone number and then his work history of who he's worked for and when. So now it gets again much easier to recruit the right people, the people who are already matching the lending profile that you're trying to improve, you're trying to grow. Okay, so the other thing is in general is if I said, here, let me look at all of DC and do that same report. So instead of looking at just the submarket, I'm looking at the whole market of DC from January 1st. And now I can see, all right, well, overall it's Reggie Maddox and Blake Wise and Neil. And again, this is what they've done overall in the US, but this is what they've done in DC specifically. So now you can see whether they are local or whether they are, you know, call center folks. So this would indicate that, you know, 280 out of 313, the majority of Reginald's business is done in DC, so he's probably a local person. Okay, but the other thing to do, or the other thing we can do, is we can say, look, I see that here is their, you know, their Washington DC production, but I want to break it out. I want to see how many loans have these folks done for low to moderate income census tracts. So I can select that filter, that breakout category. And now what I'm seeing is, all right, this is still Reginald Maddox for McLean Mortgage. And again, this is what Reginald has originated in DC. But as I scroll a little bit to the right, I can see, okay, in LMI census tracts, Reginald has originated 61 loans, right? And $24 million. And that is 21% of his total business. So 21% of all of Reginald's loans are in LMI census tracts. So if I'm looking at this, again, at recruiting purposes, I can see down the list, number 9, Julio Cueto has done 64 of his loans in LMI, which represents over 50%. Right? So he's at, you know, 127 overall. He's done 127 loans overall, but 64 of those loans have come in low to moderate income. Same concept that I can say, all right, well, instead of LMI, what's the percentage of business that these folks have done in majority minority census tracts, or MMCTs? And it's the same concept. I can say, all right, here's Reginald Maddox. Here's, again, total production in DC. But then as I scroll down, and I'm going to stay here and scroll over to the right, so I can say 280 loans of Reginald Maddox right here. 130 of those have come in majority minority census tracts. So again, this could be Reginald could be a great candidate if we're trying to be very specific about the LOs or the candidates we're trying to hire to reach those multicultural census tracts or those diverse market opportunities. So this information that you see at the loan officer level can be pivoted. We can take the same information, but instead of looking at it by individual loan officer, we can look at it by whole lender. And so that leads us to this, which says in DC, the top lender is Rocket. Here's what Rocket has done in the US in total. And here's what Rocket has done in DC year to date. Okay, so we have Rocket, Wells Fargo, First Savings, McLean. So you can, again, potentially staying on the recruiting line, you could say, hey, I'm interested in, if I'm an independent, I could say, look, McLean Mortgage maybe resembles our lending portfolio or a lending strategy. Maybe the best thing to do is to potentially talk to McLean Mortgage loan officers. And, oh, okay, it looks like, well, there's our original Maddox who works for McLean Mortgage. And so you can see he's number 1, but then Melissa Bell is number 2, followed by Stephen, Troy, Jay, and so on. Okay, so just different approaches. And then the last piece of information, so this is current information. This data comes from county assessors, and so is therefore the most recently available data when we're talking about market share. Okay, so here we can say, look, Rocket has a dollar share of 7.78 in DC, a unit share of 9.13. And that's looking at the here and now, today's market. But we also have the ability to look backwards, to look at historical information. So we can go back here, right, to here's our map. And instead of picking the second report, we can pick the first report. And now I can say, all right, now we're looking historically at HMDA data. And we're looking at, if I said, to stay with our example, I want to look specifically in that submarket that I'd built in DC. And so now it tells me this. In 2021, in just that submarket, there were 450 lenders that originated at least one purchase loan. Okay, that averaged to about 12 purchase loans for every lender in that submarket. And the top 5 lenders control 18.3% of the market. So that means if we add up the market share of the top 5 lenders in that submarket, they control 18%. As a rule of thumb, anything under 30% indicates that the market is fragmented. Anything above 30% means that the market is concentrated. Okay, so here you would say, look, if you're looking to do business or to grow your business in that little submarket, then there's not one dominant player. So based on your products or your lending strategy, you can think of ways to attack the market. And specifically, if you wanted to be or become the number 5 lender or top 5 lender in this market, you would need a share of 2.4%. So again, you could try to achieve that over a period of time, maybe 1 year, or maybe you could say, you know what, that would give us, if we did this over 2 years, we could hit that goal. Or you could say, you know what, we're already a top 5 lender. Let's just continue taking share from others. But let's get to the interesting part, which is all the way down here, where we can say, hey, who are those top lenders in just that submarket? And I could say it's First Heritage. Again, this is what First Heritage did in the US, but here's what First Heritage did in just that submarket in 2021. So First Heritage followed by First Home, Rocket, Navy Federal, DHI, right? And so here's the interesting part of this table, is that that's for all purchase, but I can very quickly say, all right, well, that's for all purchase, but who is the top lender in that submarket to African-American borrowers? So then I can go down and say, all right, well, First Heritage is still number 1, but then Rocket came up, First Home slipped, and then DHI, Navy Federal, and so on. And you can see the number of loans and dollars to specifically African-American borrowers. So we can do it by race and ethnicity. We can do it by loan type. So who is the top VA lender in that submarket? Well, it looks like First Heritage, but then Mortgage Research Center, and so on. And then finally, again, by income. So we can say, hey, who is the top low to moderate income lender in that area? First Home, Rocket, First United Shore, Homespire, and so on. So the point of this tool is that it gives you immediate, instant access to the actual industry leading data source, HMDA. All right. So as I come back to the map, I just kind of want to recap a little bit to say, look, the idea is, again, whether you're using this platform or another data set, the point is to be able to be very intentional and very precise about where you are investing your resources, your time, energy, and money to get the most return for your investment. So that, you're, especially in today's environment where refis have drained or have dried up, everybody's really working hard to get purchase business and resources are limited. We need to invest wisely and intelligently. So Tony, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if any were raised, or to go through, some different parts of the map or anything like that. Tony, Andres, are you still available?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure Tony is. Give me 1 second. Yeah, he's here. Tony,
Okay.
can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Great. Any other, sorry about that, guys. Any other questions for Bernard? So Bernard, I have one question. As I talk to originators and as I talk to lenders, one of the things I try to tell them that next year, really right now in today's market, data is power, right? Knowledge is important. Having the right data to focus on to grow your business, to know where the business is going to be paramount. When you look at what we see here today in terms of separating and understanding your marketplace, how important is real-time data, to be able to understand that data and use that data. How important is that? We were talking with a LO earlier and I was like, look, dude, the first 6 months of the year was totally different than today, right? Or even the last 90 days in our industry has been radically different. So how important it is to use data to keep up with the pace of where the market is headed right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's critical. It's critical. That's simple as that, really. There will be lenders and loan officers who embrace data, and they're going to be around for, quote unquote, the lean times, especially when we're comparing this to the last two record-breaking years. Then these qualify as lean times. And so staying atop of the latest trends in the industry, and especially in your specific market, is of utmost importance. Knowing where the opportunity is, whom to contact or whom to develop business relationships with as a result, or whom to recruit, it is going to be the difference between, lenders who stay around and some who potentially may not.
Yep. Great. Well, guys, if we don't have anyone else, I think I see Andres. Do we have 2 hands that are raised, or have those questions been asked yet?
Yeah, they're just raised, but no questions on the chat, Tony.
Okay, great. Well, looks like we just had a 3rd hand raised. Lyra, any questions?
And so while Laura is getting a question together, just as a recap, the idea of, this platform is really to hit 4 areas, right? One is to just identify whether you have gaps in coverage, so whether you're leaving money on the table in your existing market. 2 is to quantify diverse market and multicultural opportunity in your market, to figure out, again, where, if you segment your market, where's that opportunity. 3 is to make sure, especially if you're a loan officer, that you're forging the right relationships with the right realtors, whether they're listing agents or buying agents. And then finally, the last piece is on the recruiting side of making sure to hire the right LOs that are a match for where you want to do business.
Great. All great insights. And again, data, insights, and demographics are our key to really being the CEO of your marketplace as an originator, as well as, being able to, as a lender, be able to know where to focus your time, energy, and your team's effort to grow purchase originations. And we know, again, guys, purchase originations, there's a very small pond, at least currently right now. That pond is going to get bigger over the coming years, but there's a very small pond of purchase opportunities, particularly in today's rising rate environment. And so we just want to give you the tools and resources you need, help you understand you got to look at reinventing your business as well as reinventing your organization to leverage data, insights, and demographics. On behalf of NAMBA.
Tony, I see
Yes.
some questions coming in.
Okay, well, let's hit those real quick. Here, Q&A.
Yep.
I own an AMC. How can I get in contact with rentals and lenders to identify opportunities to add value to them, Bernard?
Yes. So the idea, so if there are a couple questions, we'll do Ricardo's first. So Ricardo, to get in contact with realtors and lenders to identify opportunities. The idea here is that, you can see with the forecasting layer, you can see where the opportunity is, and then to be able to identify, okay, who is actually doing the business, whether they're realtors or loan officers in those specific areas. And so you can see that the data sets that are a part of this platform come with contact information, whether it's realtors or loan officers.
Great.
So
we have one for Angel Title Company. Who would my broker have? Who would I have my broker clients reach out to for more information? Bernard, let's share your information with them.
Yeah, I would say just go to iEmergent.com, and then you can very easily, click on request a demo. That's very easy. I'm also happy to, I think if I put in my chat, I can put my email address. Hopefully that's there. Just binasuli@iEmergent.com. More than happy to talk to anyone.
Martha G has a question. Martha, it sounds like your chat is disabled. Is there any way you can send that? Well, you said the chat is disabled. I was going to say send it through the chat. Can you filter by language or preference?
So
Bernard?
Yes. So the idea is, what we can look at is, we could say, all right, so let's say, we're looking for, if you said Hispanic borrowers, right? We could go back and take a look and say, all right, well, where's the Hispanic borrowing opportunity? And look to see where the forecast is there, and that's showing up on the map right now. So we would think that these are where Spanish language loan officers would come in handy. Obviously, Spanish language marketing materials, anything like that. The same can be said for if we said Asian, although with the Asian borrower segment, there would be many more languages, right? There could be, Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, quite a few. So, but what we can do is we can narrow and say, look, this happens to be an Asian area, or an opportunity, an area with high opportunity for Asian borrowers. This now, with you being on the ground, you would know what kind of segment is there.
So technically, basically, if I live in that community, which most people do, they live in the marketplace that they're doing business in. Obviously, you may have business out of state, but if I live in that market, I can say, you know what, let me get on this map. I know my community, and then let me look at this community and open it up to uncover what opportunities are there based on me knowing the geographical footprint of my market.
Yeah, exactly. And Martha had a follow-up question, or the Spanish-speaking LOs and bilingual realtors. So at that point, we don't have a marker or a flag that specifically calls out this is a bilingual person working in the industry. But obviously, assumptions aren't 100% clearly, but there are a couple things. One is generally, if we identify, let's say we identified this area right over here, and we say, you know what, that's a high opportunity for Hispanic borrowers right in this area. We could say either A, the person, the realtor or the loan officer is Hispanic, or B, that person is working with or is used to working with, especially if they have the business, if they have the business and they're working with Hispanic borrowers. And so the point is whether they are Hispanic themselves or whether they are some other race or ethnicity, but are doing very well with that community, then I would say that's a great place to start.
Great.
And then of course, working with Tony and NAMBA in order to be able to actually go the last mile and say, hey, here are the folks that we're interested in, and Tony knows that database. Yep.
All great questions. Well, guys, we want to thank you for your time today. Some great information, some great questions, but most importantly, hopefully some resources to have you to think about how you're approaching your business differently. I want to close out by just saying one thing to everyone today. How you've done business, whether you've been in the business for 5 years or for 5 days or longer, how you look at the new marketplace, you've got to radically think about looking at it differently in this new landscape that we're in terms of how we connect, engage with the marketplace in terms of multicultural purchase originations, and then also how you communicate with those borrowers. So this is helping you to understand where the opportunities are, but then you got to understand also, how do I communicate with those? How do I engage with those referral sources and or potential borrowers in that marketplace to let them know who I am, what I do, and most importantly, the value that I can add. And so understand that the consumer mindset is radically changing, and we just want lenders in the mortgage industry. We've been slow to react to change. It takes us a while to change, but now more than ever, because there's only an infinite amount of purchase originations, you got to ask yourself, what am I doing to change my business? And I can't do business as usual. So thank you for joining our call today. Have a phenomenal, fantastic week. And I look forward to seeing you soon on another NAMBA webinar. Thanks, guys. This concludes our call.